I've been quite excited to try the Tomintoul 10-year single malt Scotch whisky. I nabbed this and the 16-year sample bottles in keeping with my policy of never buying a bottle of whisky unless I've tasted it first. It comes highly regarded by some people that I've spoken to, so let's see how it stacks up, for me at least. Let's do it. This is Whisky Whiskey. I'm John Chidgey. Always remember to drink responsibly, in moderation, and where and when appropriate. Feel free to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and visit engineer.network/whiskey without the E to learn how you can support the show. Thank you. Before we get into the whiskey though, I want to touch a bit on the Glenlivet Estate, which is in the Speyside region of Scotland. There were multiple distilleries in and surrounding the Glenlivet Estate over the past 100 or so years, and many of them used the word Glenlivet in their name. Problem was, the original was then confused by the others, and they called themselves the Glenlivet, with a capital T in the and G in the Glenlivet. As fortunes changed over the years, the other distilleries generally closed and the problem solved itself. However, the Tomintoul Distillery remained within the Glenlivet Estate. Noting that this estate is huge, so it's kind of next door but not really. About 5 miles or 8 kilometers down the road and closer as the crow flies. But Tomintoul include in their branding the statement, Speyside Glenlivet. The key point is that they aren't the Glenlivet, they're their own thing. Anyhow, Tomintoul is actually quite a young distillery, at least in the Scottish industry sense of the word, having only opened its doors in 1964. It currently produces 3.3 million litres of whisky annually, and one of its unusual claims to fame is their 2009 Guinness World Record for producing the largest single bottle of whiskey in the world, coming in at 105.3 litres of 14-year single malt Scotch. Okay then. Tomintoul introduced a 10-year-old single malt whiskey to their core range in 2002. So that's 22 years ago at the time of recording. And that happened a couple of years after the distillery was bought by Angus Dundee. It's been named after the nearby village of Tomintoul, unsurprisingly, which is actually the highest village in the Scottish Highlands, highest of the Highlands. Anyway. They have a reputation for producing whiskies that are gentle. So much so they advertise their scotches as being the Gentle Dram. Sounds like my kind of scotch. I guess we'll see about that in a minute. Apart from their own bottlings, Tomintoul also produce malt whiskies for blends like White and Mackay, as well as a few others. The 10-year goes for about $80 Australian. It's aged exclusively in ex-bourbon casks and has a 40% ABV, and it's considered to be a core range whiskey. It is both coloured and chill filtered. The Tomintoul website describes it like this. On the nose, delicate and floral, with aromas of acacia honey, vanilla, wholemeal toast, and mellow wood spices. On the palate, sweet and honeyed with layers of cream caramel and toasted almond, with highlights of lemon and zest and a grassy freshness. And on the finish, a surge of sweetness swiftly pursued by a tingling spice. Dear me. One of the really cool things about this is it comes in its own little miniature size bottle to protect it from sunlight. And it is literally a scale replica of the real thing. So if we look inside there, we've got our little Tomintoul 10. So let's have a taste and see what we're up for. Have not tasted this before. Okay. So first of all, in terms of colour, it's sort of an amber colour. Not too dark, also not too light, certainly not as light as a straw. Have a look at the legs on this, see what we've got. Being chill filtered, yeah, there's really not a lot of legs on this puppy. And there's a few starting to form, but they're pretty quick running and not particularly viscous. But that's what I would expect from something that is in essence, you know, coloured and chill filtered. Interesting. Slightly medicinal. Bit fruity. Definitely getting some vanilla, which you'd expect, of course, being from aged in ex-bourbon casks. There is a little bit of honey in there. It's a very sweet honey. And they talk about wholemeal toast. I'm not getting any of that. Okay, it certainly is quite a pleasant nose. It's not in your face. It doesn't slap you in the face, for example. Let's have a taste. Okay. The caramel's very faint. It's not a very strong flavor. It's a very mellow, very light flavored whiskey. And I suppose, given that it's 10 years, there's probably a lot more of that distillate than there is actually from aging from the barrel influence. Having said that, the finish, it's a relatively moderate finish. I'm quite surprised that the finish is lasting as long as it is. I can still taste that honey on the finish. Having said that, it is still very, very delicate. It is not a strong whiskey at all. Let's have another go. That I definitely oh dear. I'm definitely getting some toasted almond on that. It sounds weird, but I actually can taste the almonds on it. And it's only a lightly toasted kind of an almond. It's not like a deep, dark roasted kind of a... It's not bitter at all, not really. But honestly, I mean, it's perfectly nice. Oh, there's that honey on the finish. It is the honey on the finish is really quite delightful. Having said that, though, it really isn't a very strong whiskey. And that's not a bad thing. Sometimes you want something, you know, gentle and something light. But at the same time, I suppose the contrary to that is it's not particularly exciting or interesting. But it's not bad. I suppose in the end, Tomintoul pitched themselves as being a gentle dram, and it certainly is. Certainly the 10-year version. In a future episode, I'll have a look at the 16, because I've got it here as well, and give that a shot and see how that compares. But certainly the 10, it is quite pleasant. So how do we rank this, and where does it sit overall? Certainly for cost, it's a 1. It is quite affordable, considering you know, you can get it for less than $80, which is great. When it comes to the quality, though, I'm struggling to give this more than a 2. I mean, it's nice enough for some variety, but it's certainly not. It's not making me smile, giggle, or get particularly excited. So overall, I'd rate this as a 2. It's a nice drink for some occasional variety. Certainly, the cost is spot on, and that makes it green. I mean, you should probably keep some of these around if you want a nice, pleasant, gentle dram. Well, just like it says, the Gentle Dram. Certainly lives up to it. I think we'll leave it there. Slàinte, or cheers, whichever you like. It's all good, really. Beautiful light honey. Not too bad. Cat says meow. Oh my God.